The Bruins Benders Podcast is live, Season 5, Episode 3. Maddie and Smitty brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network at InsideTheRink.com. If you're joining us right now on YouTube, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. If you're listening later on any of the podcast platforms, give us a rate and review. Sign up for ITR Plus for Benders off-air content. In this episode, we will discuss Zdeno Chara's new role. Who is the better player, David Pastrnak or Kirill Kaprizov? And Marco Sturm says young players have to do special things to make it. All that and more right here on the Bruins Benders Podcast. And your Boston Bruins are 4-2 in the preseason. 4-2.
Yes.
In the preseason.
Positive Smitty's loving this.
Oh my God. Positive Smitty is rock solid right now. I mean, he's on it.
I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm passing the bag because Maddie and Smitty were at Harpoon Fest.
We were.
A beautiful downtown Boston today. A gorgeous day in the city of Boston. So we went outside and drank 1,000 beers.
We did. It's a real beaut out there today.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It was a great day. It was a great time. You should go on our Twitter, and I gave you a review of all the different beers, and we had a grand old time there. Lots of nice people and good beer and some good time had by all.
Good people. We were one of the older people.
We were.
Groups of people there.
That's not going to stop us because we're young at heart.
No,
we're young at heart.
We are.
And
no one recognized us.
No, it's a shame.
Again.
It is. Yeah, nobody bought us beers.
You'd think with the celebrity that you are right now that you'd be recognized. But
you would think.
Not quite.
No. We got to get our faces out there a little bit more, I think. This year we're doing it. We're doing it this year. What else people should do is they should book their tickets now, come down to Tampa and see us at the Stadium Series, because we're going to be down there doing all the podcasting and hijinks and whatnot down there. Yeah. So people should book their tickets now. Come down to the game, hang out with Maddie and Smitty, Bruins Benders Podcast, live from Tampa Bay for the Stadium Series on February 1.
We'll hang out with them.
There a little bit early. Come down and hang out with us.
Benders fan party.
Fuck yeah. Come down and hang out with us. Sorry, John, but there's going to be a party. You're invited too, you piece of shit. Let's go.
Today. Yeah. Let's go. I agree with you. Like, come on down. We're serious. Like, hang out with us.
Come down and hang out with us. Perfectly.
All the beers. Connor will buy all the beers, and we'll just party.
Connor and Andrew will buy you guys all beers. Yeah. I mean, producer Connor's got his American Express Platinum card, Gold card, Black card, whatever it is, ready to go. He's gonna on the bar and
50 Shades of credit card.
One. Yeah. Everyone that shows up. Connor's going to be buying everybody beer, so you should all come down and hang out with us.
The key word here is allegedly, but since we're picking the colors of the card, it is black.
Allegedly, your situation for you would be concurrently improved.
Allegedly.
I had
$200. As Smitty said, follow us on X at Benders Smitty, at Mr. Matty Barry, and at Bruins Benders. Send us an email, bruinsbenders@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Send us an email. Tell us your thoughts.
And if you want to sponsor the show, hit us up there too.
Yeah, sure. Give us a little sponsorship, sure. Mm-hmm. Or tell us what kind of content, whatever. Ask us questions.
Yeah.
Put it on the air. Our first post game is coming.
Yeah.
Wednesday night.
We are a podcast for the people. So send us an email, shoot us a message on X, a DM, whatever, and let us know what you'd like to see or hear or have us talk about. And we will incorporate it into the show because we are here for you.
And you know what? Time out. Let's get fun.
Okay.
If somebody wants to send us a video that we can actually play live, what about, maybe you send us a video of your thoughts and we'll play it and you guys can read.
You know what? We'll have a Benders banter. We'll do that. We'll throw the best ones up there.
Absolutely. I guess what Connor's saying is anything except for nudity, probably.
Even that could be slight.
Look, unless you're a cute girl, if you want to send us nudes, if you're cute, go ahead. But other than that, keep it
And even if you're average, whatever. Whatever.
Stay off of Matt's Instagram.
Matt's on the hunt. Matt's on the prowl.
We're not judging McJudgy pants.
So there's no judgment. No judgment here.
This is a judgment-free zone.
Yeah, Matt's on the prowl. So
we judge the Bruins. We don't judge you and your
no,
we would never do that.
We certainly would not.
Today's game, 4-1 win for the Bruins at the TD Garden. Nikita Zadorov with 2 more goals. He scored 3 goals against the Rangers this preseason. He's been good, and he's my pick to click. He's my 7th Player Award winner prediction. Yeah. I said he would have 7 goals. God, he might have 17 if he keeps it up at this rate.
He has 17 goals that go in the playoffs.
Oh, they are. Right.
Going to the playoffs. If he scores 17 goals, they go in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because that's some secondary scoring you're not counting on. So if he's scoring like that, you're going to the playoffs. You are.
No. But yes, a win today, and Pavel, Zacha and Elias Lindholm also scored, which is a good sign too. Fraser Minton, a terrific pass to Z for a goal. Minton's been playing well. Sturm says he really likes the kid, and looks like Minton's going to make the team, make the opening night lineup. Look, we can get all horny over it, and rightfully so. I mean, they're playing decently. But look, let's let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is still a fairly weak lineup, and a lineup that has a lot of question marks. And as the season goes on, it'll be hard for them to maintain consistency with this lineup. So yeah, it's nice that they won today. It's nice that they're playing fairly well, and they do have some good players, but just not sure they have enough of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure they do, but it's difficult with the amount of ifs they have, because usually those don't all break the right way for you. But they do have some good players, and they have some guys coming back from injury that have looked pretty good. Hampus, Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, Swayman certainly has bounced back in the preseason. He was good today. So and then they obviously Pastrnak and Geekie. So they have some good players. It's just, are they going to be able to get enough secondary scoring? Are they going to be able to keep the puck out of their own net?
Right.
And is their specialty teams going to be better than it was a year ago? So that's a lot of ifs. But if those break the right way, then they could be a playoff team. They could.
They do, and we've talked about what needs to happen for them to be on the cusp of making the playoffs, and health is obviously one of them. Secondary scoring, another. Getting back to good defensive structure, another. And your goaltender needs to be really good. Yeah. If those things happen, then sure. I mean, we saw them last year, even after those trades, still in it for a while.
Yeah.
So a lot of teams are in it.
Quotation fingers.
Until March. Yeah. Yes, in it. So if they're hanging around and they're still healthy and they're getting good goaltending, it could. I mean, it could. It's not that it couldn't happen, but it's highly unlikely that it will happen, because injuries happen and other things happen, and inconsistency and all that, and who knows.
Well, and the same things apply to all the other teams who have better rosters than you do. So
sure,
are they going to underachieve? Right. Are you going to overachieve or slightly overachieve? So it's not just your team and how you do. There's, 6 other teams in the division, or 7 other teams in division, whatever it is. And they all have better forward depth than you. You probably have better defense. We said that a year ago, but it didn't pan out a year ago. You probably have better goaltending. Better goaltending didn't pan out a year ago for you. But if those things hold up, that should keep you in games. Now, are you going to be able to get enough from your forwards to hang in some of those games and win some of those games against some teams, that maybe have a weaker defense but a better forward group than you? So, it's a trade-off there. But we'll see if, the Bruins can hang around and, be there when it counts at the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to the chirps, let's get some of these comments. Monica says, "How's it hanging, fellas? Hanging, brother.
Yeah.
Preseason game was sick today. We saw a little bit of it at the Harpoon.
Yeah.
And look, it looked like they played pretty well. Looked like Swayman played well. And those are the things like we talked about tonight. Today is the type of game like 4-1 win. Like this is the recipe for them to win. Can they play this way all the time? No idea. But this is kind of the recipe, even though it's preseason. Michigan Mike says, "How is confident Smitty today?"
I'm
super confident.
Look, I'm optimistic, Smitty. I'm going to stick with that until the season starts and they hit a tailspin. So I'm going to say, that they play well. Start of the season, they get bounce back years from Swayman and McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm and Elias Lindholm. They get some secondary scoring from Arvidsson and Zacha. And Casey Middlestad isn't a complete minus every time he's on the ice. Mason Lohrei has a little bit of a bounce back. And hopefully they stay in it, because I would like to see them make the playoffs. I would. I mean, we've been down on the last couple of years, but it's really because the team sucks or has sucked and the roster's been bad. So, it'd be nice to see them rebound here and get into the playoffs, because Lord knows we'd rather have playoff hockey than not.
Well, without a doubt. And it really comes down to, can they score enough over the course of the year and not hit these major offensive slumps, which is, when you don't have, when you have some inconsistent secondary scoring, you fall into some offensive slumps, and they have to avoid those. I mean, they just have to.
Yeah.
Can't go on a 5 or 6 game losing streak because you can't score.
Right.
So that's a tough one. Michigan Mike also says, is Beecher heading to Providence? He might hang on as an extra forward.
Yeah.
But to me, I think you send him down and you let him play a lot in all situations and see. Look, I'm sort of down and out on Beecher just because, look, the proof is in the pudding. Like, this isn't like a new development. It's not like he scored 20 goals in his first year and then tanked it like DeBrusque or something. Like, this is how he's been his whole life, is this kind of production and this type of player. So I don't think you're going to magically see something different from Beecher. I think it's one more kick of the can on a 1-year deal for him to see if they can salvage anything out of that first round pick. And if they can't, that's it.
Yeah, I think he's going to be an extra forward on the team. I really do.
Yeah,
I think he's going to hang with the big club as an extra forward, because he can win faceoffs, and he can, I guess, penalty kill, and he's got speed and he's big and he's fast. So, those things, I guess, play at the NHL level. I think his hockey IQ is not very good, and he doesn't have any offensive touch at all. So he's not going to help you offensively. If he can help you win faceoffs and penalty kill us if someone gets hurt, then fine. But he should not be an everyday regular at the NHL level. He just shouldn't. He
shouldn't be, and you're not a great team if he is. You're just not. So, yeah. Could Corrali get hurt? Could Kastelic get hurt?
Yeah,
sure. And then he slides in there. Sure. But right now, I think your fourth line of Asamont and Corrali and Kastelic is where it's at. And it's a good fourth line, potentially. It's a veteran, good, tough fourth line. So, I think all those three players give you more than Beecher, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So I think that you're probably right. It's probably an extra forward. Blue Mel and him.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably in that mix, and Poitras down. I think Poitras is more likely to go down than Beecher, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Poitras will go down and play, 20 minutes a night in all situations, because he's a top 6 guy. So if he's not playing top 6 in the NHL, then he needs to go down to Providence and play top 6.
Right.
He shouldn't be hanging out here as an extra forward or a fill-in guy on the third or fourth line.
Third line guy. Yeah,
he needs to play with good players, and it doesn't seem like the Bruins want to play with good players. Guys that can score. So he needs that in order to be successful. You can't put him with, the Patrick Browns and Kastelics and Corrales of the world and expect him to produce offensively, because that's not really his game. He's more of a passing guy. So, I think if Casey Middlestad got hurt and he slid into, a top 6 role with Zacha and Arvidsson, now you're talking. Now maybe that's a place where Poitras could succeed. But other than that, he needs to go down to Providence and play more minutes.
He does. And I think that's how it'll start again this year for him. All right. 7 Chirps is sponsored by Lofts Brewing. Lofts is a brewing and tasting room in downtown with soccer renowned, specializing in small batch ales and lagers. It's open 7 days a week. Use the coupon code SPORTS for 10% off your online order at loftsbrewing.com. Follow them at Lofts Brewing for new beers and events. Chirp 1, Zdeno Chara finds a new role, and in his role, quote, Chara will work closely with both players and staff to advise the organization in key areas. His primary responsibilities will include building relationships and strengthening communication between players and coaches, attending practices and home games, and providing off-ice development support to defensemen. He will also serve as a resource for the team's development staff and make periodic visits to connect with prospects at the AHL level. So everything that they stink at when it comes to player development, Zdeno Chara will pick up that slack.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it can't be anything but good. Like when he came in here, he changed the culture of the team. He was a big part of that. They were terrible before he got here. And Chiarelli bought him and Mark Savard in, and he really was a catalyst in changing the culture of the team. Now, the more young defensemen and defensemen in general from this team can be around him and soak up some of his knowledge, learn some of his tricks, get some of his experience or wisdom or whatever, that can only help. So I love the fact that he's back involved. Can he help with the player development of the defense? I certainly hope so. Mason Lohrei could certainly use hours and hours and hours of time with Zdeno Chara and trying to pick his brain and learn more of the defensive side because he's terrible at it right now at the NHL level. He just is. And I honestly don't have any idea why he's starting on the first defensive pair with Charlie McAvoy. It makes no sense to me at all. I don't understand it. I don't think that's putting him or McAvoy in a position to succeed because you're asking him to play against the other team's top lines. You're asking McAvoy to have to cover for him. McAvoy already is probably a little too skating around everywhere, offensive minded, jump up in the play, try to make things happen. I think he's a little too much in that mode. For me, I think I would rather see him settle back into a more two-way defensive style where he's really good defensively, punishing physically, and then chips in offensively here and there, and is a 50 or 60 point guy, what he was when Cassidy was here and when he was top 5 for the Norris. But, since Montgomery came in, he kind of opened him up and let him do kind of whatever he wanted. And I think his game's gotten away from him a little bit. So maybe Chara can rein him in there a little bit, hopefully, and reestablish their defensive kind of culture that has been a hallmark of this team for a lot of years. So Chara coming in can only be a win, in my opinion.
True. I mean, they've had a hard time with that left side D. I mean, they're in a bind. Like Hampus, Lindholm, and Charlie McAvoy really didn't work that well. It's been Matt Grzelcyk and like nobody else who can really play with Charlie. And like you said, Lohrei playing with him, that means probably 21, 22 minutes a game. Do you really want that? Like, I know that Lohrei played a ton of minutes in the USHL and at Ohio State, like 26, 28, sometimes 30 minutes. Like, but he's not a 24, 26 minute a game guy in the NHL. So you don't want that.
Not yet.
I don't know. I mean, you have Lindholm coming back from injury. You probably don't want to play him a ton, especially right away. So I guess you have to do this right now. But it is kind of a bind. And I just think they need a different type of left shot D-man that can go in and play with McAvoy. And I think in a perfect world, that's not Lohrei. No. And I think, if they could somehow move on from Lohrei and put another guy in there that's a better fit, then that would be advantageous to the team. But right now, they just don't have that guy to pair with them. And that's
we might that might be a little foreshadowing for Chirps a little later.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know, but it's kind of an issue. The right D is an issue, but that lefty with McAvoy is also something that I don't think is perfect.
Finding a left D pair for McAvoy is an issue, and then the right D depth overall in the team, I think, is an issue too.
It is, right. Chirp 2, is Chara the heir apparent to Sweeney if they ever decide to part ways with Sweens.
I think he would be just because I think they love to keep the thing in house. Mm-hmm. So, sure. We talked about this a little bit off the air, but I think Evan Gold would probably be the one to step from the assistant GM into the GM chair. And then Chara would move from his role now into the assistant GM chair. And then once Evan Gold either is fired or decides to do something else, Chara would assume the general manager role after he has a little more experience, is what I think would probably happen. And I think that's what they would want to happen, because I think they value Chara certainly in his, his leadership and wisdom. And once he learns kind of the general managing part, I think, he would be a natural kind of to plug in there.
How about this one? How about an heir apparent to Cam Neely when he decides to get done? 60 years old. God knows how long he'll still do this. Yeah. Could he be team president at some point?
You could. I would rather have. I would like him to assume the Harry Sinton thing. Make him like GM and president both. And so you don't need a two-headed monster. You don't need Neely. You don't, because they butt heads about the type of players.
They do.
Neely wants the big physical guys, and Sweeney wants the puck movers and the speed. And they run into issues when the team loses, and they're kind of butting heads about the direction they should take the team, which is part of the reason that you're not really sure if the Bruins have an identity. What's their identity? Neely wants it to be big, tough, physical guys, and Sweeney wants it to be maybe more of a, pace, speed, get up ice, counterattack type of thing. So, what's the real identity of the team? So I think you would be better off if you had one guy in that position rather than two. And I think Chara would be a good fit there.
Chirp 3, Connor Ryan says that Matt Poitras seems to be getting run at for some reason. I think it's a simple answer. I think that Poitras is undersized and slight, and shown, that he puts himself in prone positions at times. And I think the scout is to bang on him and beat him down. And that's why I don't love the potential of him being able to play an 82-game season and then into a playoff structure that's even more physical. This is why I don't love, high-end, top-line centers being undersized. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think that's going to be a knock on him until he proves otherwise.
Yes,
we'll put it that way. If he proves that he can go into a playoff series and withstand it and play and produce, then great. But until he does it, I'm not sure. That's the best fit for him. We'll see. Maybe he's on the wing and he can get away with that. I don't know. But he's kind of getting to the point. I mean, he's still young, but he's getting to the point where he's starting to run out of chances a little bit. Like it's getting to the point where it's like, when's he going to crack the lineup? When's he going to start? When is he going to be a regular? When's he going to start producing? He's underwhelmed in the preseason this year. He hasn't done much. Is it his fault for not really producing, or is it the team's fault for putting him with guys that can't score? Or the roster, kind of sucks. So he's playing with guys that, don't help him out when he makes a good play. It's probably a combination. It's probably a little of both. He's probably underwhelmed and he's not being put in the best position to succeed. But, we need to see a little more from him, and we need to see him be able to stand up to the rigors of an NHL season. He has kind of that hunched over skating style, which I think also opens him up to some hits. So, the jury's kind of out on him, and we'll see if he can, over the course of this season, maybe crack the lineup and stick. Because that's what needs to be the next step for him. He needs to get into the lineup, but then stay in the lineup, not yo-yo up and down or get hurt and miss 25 games and then have to go back. And then it's, he starts over again because he hasn't been around for a while. So he needs to get into the lineup, produce, and stick. And then, you can kind of evaluate him after that.
Yeah, I mean, in the comments, Zach Case makes a pretty good point. The Bruins kind of screwed him up by rushing him a year early. They needed him that first year because they were really struggling at center. and they had to play him. Now he played okay and he produced a little.
He did.
So it kind of raised the expectations a little. But over the course of time, once you get scouted and once teams kind of get to know you, then they adjust on you. And it just doesn't have. It seems like it hasn't come back for him since those adjustments and getting familiarity around the league. So it was early for him.
It was.
Now he did produce a little, so he gave you a spark. He gave you a little something to get excited about, but it probably wasn't the best thing for his development to come in. And so now he's kind of playing catch up. Now he's kind of, you put him in there. Now he's doing the AHL thing, and now he's kind of doing the thing he probably should have done in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think they're expecting him to play like he played in the very beginning, which, that might have been lightning in a bottle. I mean, that might have been him playing with some better players at the time. So, it might have been his worst, he's his own worst enemy at this point. So, he's got something to prove here this season, I think, whether he starts in Providence or starts in Boston, we'll see. But at some point, he's going to get some NHL games, and he needs to make the most of them. So,
if you remember, he had that goal against Chicago where he kind of blew through everybody, walked in and scored.
Yeah.
Great finish. You're like, oh, here, this kid might be pretty good. And then since then, we haven't seen much of anything at the NHL level in that way. So it's going to be another year probably where he's down on the farm and he needs to have another good year. But like we've seen before, that's no indication either, because Georgii Merkulov scored 30 goals down there. So, and the other thing is, Moniker says here in the comments, maybe it's his skating that's not quite good enough. And that was the knock on Merkulov. That's what we've been saying about Merkulov. His skating isn't good enough. So is Poitras skating good enough, to take himself out of position, in those, sort of positions where he gets lit up, or he puts himself in bad spots.
Yeah, I mean, he carrying the puck through center ice. Like, is he fast enough to avoid getting caught on the back check every time? Like, it seemed like every time Merkulov had the puck in an NHL game or an NHL preseason game, he was getting caught from behind.
Yeah,
and that can't happen if you're an NHL player. You can't continuously get caught from behind every time you have the puck. Right. So either you got to make quicker decisions with it, or you have to be a better skater. And if you're not, you're a 4A guy, which unfortunately I think is probably what Merkulov is. The jury's still out on Poitras, whether or not his skating is good enough to make plays at the NHL level. I think it is. I think even like a guy like David Krejci, say he's wasn't the best skater, but if he had the puck, he had the ability to diagnose, slow the game down, and draw guys to him, and then pass to the open guy. Can Poitras do that? I think he can. I think he's a good enough passer to make those kind of plays. But again, he needs to be playing with better players, and he has to have the confidence to be able to hold on to the pucks and not do the same curl at the boards every time at the NHL level that, the team got into a kind of a habit of doing, not just him, but everybody, take it down the boards, curl back, and then get stripped of the puck. So, you got to have some kind of diversity to your game to be able to make different kinds of plays. And we'll see with Poitras whether he can do that or not.
Yeah, and Merkulov, when he went through waivers, people were saying, boy, are you really going to put him through waivers? Look, no one's going to claim the guy. Like, he's not getting a chance here on one of the worst lineups in hockey. Right. Then who's going to pick him up and put him on their NHL lineup on their NHL roster right now? Like, nobody. And so he cleared waivers. I think that in a case of not just Merkulov, Bruins fans kind of want so badly to develop somebody. Like, give me somebody, and if there's an inkling of hope, then we say, okay, Merkulov, 30 goals in the AHL, like, he's ready next year. And then he's not. Lysell, he's got this disability, and we read the clippings and we look at the video, and there's some real flashes there, and he doesn't crack the lineup. Like, so, I think they want it so bad that they're seeing something that's just not there with these guys. And it's clear that Merkulov is done as far as the NHL, in my opinion. And Lysell's getting close.
Yeah, I mean, he was another guy that hasn't shown much through the preseason, and by all accounts there was opportunity there. Whether you believe that or not is a different story. I don't necessarily believe that with the guys that they brought in. But Sturm said there was opportunities for some of the young guys. Now it's probably some of the young guys that play the way he wants them to play, like your Fraser Mittens of the world, who's a good, 200-foot defensively responsible guy, and not a Fabian Lysell, who isn't particularly responsible defensively and hasn't shown enough offensively to make it worth throwing him out there. Like, if you're going to be a guy who's an offensive guy, you have to do offensive things. You have to produce. You have to have scoring chances. And he really didn't show up at all in any of the preseason games to say, yeah, you earned a spot on the team. So, people can, bang the drums and say, oh, why didn't Lysell get a real opportunity? He did get an opportunity. He just didn't do anything with it.
Didn't do it.
Merkulov and Poitras really didn't either. And that's why those guys will likely go down to Providence. Because they didn't do enough with the chances that they had.
I think because of the way they've been developed, I think part of it might be you get so discouraged. Like, what does, in Fabian Lysell's mind, he's probably thinking, what do I need to do to get a spot? I'm not quite sure what I need to do. Like, what do I need to show to get a spot? And then when you finally get a chance, you're like, boy, I've done things I thought were pretty good, and I haven't gotten a spot. I'm not sure what that is. And then you don't have the confidence to say, man, if I just play like this, I can get the spot. Fraser Minton's a good example. Like, by all accounts, he's got a spot because he's shown the Bruins whatever it is that they're looking for to make and he made a great play today to Zadorov for a goal. Mm-hmm. So he's doing the things that need to be done. But he was also, traded. You picked up in a trade for Carlo. They need to show something in return for that. So I really feel like they give a little extra chance to those types of guys that they kind of are invested in. And I think they're invested in more guys than others. And I don't think they've ever really been invested in Lysell or Merkulov because of the way they play and the way they've responded to the coaching and not really either listened or changed their game in a way that the Bruins want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like from stuff you've heard from Mujanel and other coaches in Providence that there was an issue with Merkulov and Lysell both, that they weren't really adapting to the system that the Bruins wanted them to adapt to. It took them a while. It took them too long, probably, for guys who should be buying in. Like, you're not a top 10 pick that can just go in and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get called up, when the next guy, gets hurt and it's my turn. That's not going to happen for you. You have to buy into the system and produce both and be good defensively. Like, they want you to be good defensively. I think it's a problem. I think they try to compare everyone to young Patrice Bergerons, and I think that's unfair to all those young guys. You're comparing him to the best defensive forward in the history of the NHL. Like, stop fucking doing that.
Yeah.
You're not going to have another Patrice Bergeron. I don't care who it is. You're not going to have another one. So stop doing that. Let them play to their strengths. And I don't think the Bruins development, because it's been bad, has let guys do that. They haven't let them play to their strengths. So that's, stunts their growth, and then they get frustrated or they try to do too much when they finally do get a game at the NHL level, and they end up, flaming out. And
I think you're starting to see that around the league with some of these other guys who, like the Jesper Boquists and some of these guys. Jack Studnicka has had a good preseason, believe it or not, for Florida. Like, I think you're starting to see that now where they go to a different organization and they get something. Look at Ryan Donato. You get something out of them by letting them, like you said, play kind of their game. They develop some confidence and they find a role. Now, whether or not Ryan Donato makes you a better team or not, I still think the jury's out on that. Like, he's on a bad team.
Yeah.
So he's putting together all sorts of points and everything. So we can get all frustrated over it. But at the end of the day, he's on a shitty team.
Yeah.
So, but can he do that on a really good team? I have no idea. But in this case, and Shaz Diet says that Ty Anderson, I actually heard this morning on the hockey show. Ty said that there are a few Providence players he's talked to that feel like they'll never get a real opportunity. So it's true. I mean, not only does the media see it and people like us see it, but it's true that the players are like, what do I need to do to get a spot? And then you bring in a guy like Blumel, who didn't show, to me, Blumel doesn't show anything. And he's going to be the extra forward. That has to be frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Player to have a guy come in like that, an AHL player come in and get a spot as an extra forward who didn't really do anything to deserve it in preseason. To me, that's a tough example.
It is. I would say the only thing I would say in Blumel's case is he was a better AHL player than either one of those guys has been.
Sure.
And he, whether or not he was scoring at the NHL level, he was still getting shots on net. So that in and of itself, to me, makes him a better option because he's the guy who actually in the offensive zone is creating scoring chances. Whether they go in is a different story. And we can debate that all day. I don't think he's going to be anything great. But he's getting more offensive chances than Lysell's getting or Merkulov's getting or Poitras even getting. So that to me is enough for him to get the extra forward spot over any of those other guys. Just because he's generating chances. And like I said, whether those go in is a different story, but at least he's generating chances. That's probably why Steves is still around. There's another guy in the AHL who was, one of the leading scorers and, had over 30 goals, I think. He's shown like the willingness to hit a little bit, which those other guys won't do. And has, I guess some offensive ability. So if you can do more than one thing or multiple things, those guys maybe have a better chance of sticking around.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. Chirp 4, who is the better player? We saw recently that Kirill Korpisalo signs for 8 years, $17 million AAV, making over $5 million more a year than David Pastrnak. Who's the better player, David Pastrnak or Kirill Korpisalo?
I mean, we're on a Boston podcast, but even if we weren't, it's David Pastrnak. It's not,
even if we weren't, Pastrnak is a better player. Yes, Pasternak's a better player. And credit to Billy Guerin because he's able to sign this massive contract, able to sign his goaltender to a much more affordable contract, and still has like $23 million in space next offseason. And is talking about maybe Panarin or some. He told Kaprizov, we're going to go for it and sign more players and take a run. And so that credit to Billy Guerin. So what I'm telling you is that Minnesota's in a much better position than Boston because of the way they've handled the contracts, the way they took care of the superstar, the way they locked up Boldy and some of these other guys. So they're in a great spot.
Absolutely in a great spot. I mean, as much as you would hate to say it, I think right now I'd rather be Minnesota than the Bruins.
Yes.
I think they have a better roster. As much as I love Pastrnak, they have a better roster. They have better forwards. They have, Brock Faber. They have some good young defensemen. So yeah, I think I would rather be Minnesota than the Bruins right now. So
hey, Pasternak's contract is just fantastic right now.
Yeah,
looks better by the day.
I think if you're the Bruins and you're still struggling in 2 or 3 years, and Pasternak's looking to get out of here to go to a contender, that might be the one guy in the one contract that the Bruins could trade. That you would get a real haul in return and might be able to turn the thing around.
You might. That might be the recipe at the end of the day.
Yeah, if to the next level. If you don't get Gavin McKenna, or if you're just good enough to not get a very high draft pick this year or next year, that might be what you end up having to do. As much as it pains me, because I think Pastrnak should stay a Bruin for the rest of his career. Right, going to end up with 600 plus goals at the end of the day, and be a Hall of Famer. But if they're not winning, if they're not getting into the playoffs, he's gonna ask out, just like Marchand did. Like he's had a taste of it. Charlie McAvoy might be the same thing. He's had a taste of it. Those guys that have had a taste, and then come back and the team sucks for a bunch of years, they're gonna want to go somewhere and play meaningful hockey at the end of the day. So, and unless the Bruins can turn this around in the next couple of years, you got to be worried about some of those guys looking to go elsewhere.
You have to be, and it's really important. Maybe not this year, but next year to show some progress. You have to, because some of those guys, like you said, if they're just spinning their wheels, it could be a dangerous thing. Trip 5. How long before defenseman Frederick Brunet takes Mason Lohrei's spot? We talked about left side D. How long before Brunet, who had a decent camp at times?
He did have a decent camp.
He might be a better version of the player you want. There.
I think he is a better overall player right now than Lohrei is, offensively and defensively combined. Obviously, Lohrei is a much better offensive player, but I think Brunet is better in his own zone and can chip in offensively. I think he's more mature defensively. So that might be a guy to me that I would have liked to see during this preseason actually play a little bit with McAvoy. Like maybe you find something there. Maybe that's a guy who can play with McAvoy and be more of a two-way defenseman, kind of like your Ryan Lindgren with an Adam Fox, kind of like the steady guy to let Fox do his thing. Like I think Brunet maybe could be the steady guy to let McAvoy do his thing. Where Lohrei is going to be wanting to jump up in the offense too. Now you got two guys to jump up in the offense and nobody to play defense, which isn't a great recipe. So I think Brunet at the end of the day might be the guy that you're looking at and saying, well, I wasn't really sure that he would be the one to fit in, but he might be the guy, the end of this season or even next season that ends up being the one that plays with McAvoy instead of Lohrei.
And Jonathan Asperot seems to be kind of hanging on.
Yeah.
It might be kept on as like an extra D man. They waived Michael Callahan. They sent him down. So Asperot could be the guy there. 26 years old. He's played in the AHL the last few years for Belleville, Calgary Wranglers. And he's kind of hanging on. They kind of like what he brought to the table in the camp. So maybe, I guess, what they like is his sort of like more of a veteran, I guess, a little older.
Yeah.
To have him be, and you don't really stunt the growth of Brunet by having him be an extra D-man and sitting on the floor.
Yeah, I don't think Brunet will be an extra. I think he'll start in Providence. So you could have Asperot or even Jordan Harris is another guy who they have who they liked that has played pretty well in the preseason, who probably will be the 7th or 8th D-man.
Yeah. All right, Chirp 6. Bruins are valued at $3 billion, 4th in the NHL. When the cap goes up, they should be able to spend to it. We've talked about this before. The cap was the best thing that happened to Bruins fans because now it's an even playing field. So the Bruins, to their credit, have, for the most part, and sometimes stupidly, spent to the cap. So, over the cap. Yeah. But at this point, they continue to do that. And when this cap keeps rising, my concern was, where does that line become? Like, is there a line in the sand there where they think, okay, this is the number we're not going to go over? Could it happen if it keeps rising? Which I thought was a legitimate question. But I think this evaluation shows me that there's no reason not to be able to continue to spend to the cap.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a line. There shouldn't be a line for the Bruins. They should be able to spend to the cap continuously. The valuation proves that. And they should be spent to the cap. They're one of the original 6 teams. They're one of the most valuable teams in the league. Bruins fans obviously travel well. Their Bruins get a lot of national TV games because they have a good, fan base all across the country. So there's all kinds of things in their favor that would allow them to spend to the cap. People, they buy the merchandise and all the things. They do all the stadium series and the New Year's Day games and the Winter Classics, all that stuff. So they should be able to spend to the cap, and it shouldn't be an issue. But they got to spend the right way. They can't just spend to spend. We've talked about that, about spending the money on the right type of guys. Part of their plan, this offseason going into next year, I think, is hoping one of these big name free agents shakes free and you're able to sign him, but with the cap up, everybody can sign their players. So I don't know if you're going to be able to wrangle, an Eichel or a McDavid or even a Kyle Connor away from one of those teams and get them to come to Boston. There's the tax things now with Florida, signing guys to lower, valuation contracts because they have the tax breakdown there. And, so there's some things, working against the Bruins in those areas where, you'd like them to spend the money, but, I don't know if they can, or if they can draw a guy away, or if there's going to be a guy that wants to come here. So, they have kind of an uphill battle as far as that goes.
Well, next in this offseason, you're looking at McDavid,
sure,
who's going to stay in Edmonton.
Yeah,
you're looking at Eichel, who's about to sign with Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Panarin, who I'm not even sure what my thoughts are on Panarin. He's 35. Like, I don't know. Yeah, he's better than what they have, but I don't know what I want to invest in a Terry Panarin. I don't. And then you have Cale Makar, who's probably going to stay in Colorado,
mm-hmm.
and then like Patrick Laine,
Kyle Connor.
and Jason Robertson's an RFA.
Yeah,
and then Kyle Connor. Like Kyle Connor will be 30, left wing. He's if I had to guess, he's the guy I think that they're probably targeting, because you can put Connor on the second line and have Pastrnak, Geekie, Lindholm, and then have Connor on a second line. Then you start kind of cooking with gas there.
Connor, Hagens, and whatever, in a year, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
hopefully,
And people in the comments have been talking about Martin Necas, who's an RFA, and never seems to be happy.
No,
anywhere. Do you go and try to? But you don't really have a ton to trade to make a trade for Necas. So how does that work out?
Right. Would they take a Pavel Zacha and Lohrei and whatever in return?
Right.
Probably not. Like, that's not enough.
They'd love your first round pick.
Yeah,
it's going to be pretty high.
It's going to be high. So you were willing to trade a high first round pick, or maybe Toronto's, because you have a first round pick from Toronto too this coming season.
Right.
You're willing to trade that thing.
Sure.
Maybe.
Right.
But is that enough? Is Zacha a first and Mason Lohrei enough to get Necas? Probably not.
Right. No.
No. So they got some work to do. I would love to bring Necas in. And maybe the Czech connection would make him happy here. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the reason that he didn't love Carolina or Colorado, is because there wasn't enough Czech guys. I don't know.
Right.
But then if you trade Zacha, that's one less Czech guy.
Yeah.
So
right.
I don't know. So yeah, I would like. Look, they need talent. So I'm willing to bring in whoever it is if they're talented. Because the roster's lacking. Like, their forward group lacking. So but then the list goes quickly. Like, it's Kempe and Bjorkstrand, and then it goes to like the Coyles and the Evander Kings and the Jordan Everleys and Kempe too.
There's nobody there.
Yeah, I love Kempe. I think
I love Kempe too. But the thought is, you're gonna give Kempe Pastrnak money. Are you gonna give probably have to. But I don't. The free agency thing is wishful thinking, but I just don't see how it all comes together in that way. I just don't. I hope so. I hope someone comes. I hope they make a real splash and get Connor, and I think that'd be great. But I just think the competition to get him, the money to get him, anybody can have him. Would he go to you? Like, I don't know. Who's he playing with?
Personally, I don't think they're going to be able to attract any of the big name free agents until they're good. That's what you need to be to attract a big name free agent. Like, Mitch Marner went to Vegas because they're good. Like, he didn't go to Chicago or Boston or somewhere else like that because they're not any good. Like, Boston's not going to attract anybody with serious talent, one of the high end guys, until Boston's good already. And that free agent, that big name free agent, is the one piece maybe that you're away from a title. Like, that's when they're going to finally be able to attract somebody. Is like back when the Bruins were good. That's when the guys like Jerome McGinley wanted to come, or Rick Nash wanted to come. It was when the Bruins were already good, and they were a piece or two away, maybe you thought, from really contending for a title, for a Stanley Cup. You're not going to be able to say, oh yeah, we'll bring you in, but then we still need 3 or 4 more guys. Like, that's not going to convince anybody to come here. So
No.
you have to be, already in contention, and then that one guy that you bring in might be the missing piece to put you over the top.
Yeah. Trip 7, Marco Sturm says young players have to do special things to make it. Evidently, Fraser Mitten's doing those special things. Again, he's speaking the speak that we've heard from management. He's coming in and saying the same types of things that Ryan Mugino said and all these other guys. Like, this is just the program philosophy. It's not changing. Don Sweeney said their player development stunk, and their players don't know how to make the lineup, and their young players are getting frustrated and not developing. And he said that their changes would be made. Well, it doesn't seem it.
No, it doesn't seem it. And it doesn't seem like they know what their role is when they come up either. It's like, here, we're going to put you in on the fourth line. So what do you want me to do on the fourth line? Do you want me to bang bodies and get in on the forecheck? Or do you want me to go and play an offensive game, like an offensive game? Like I don't think they know, and the roles aren't really defined, because I think the Bruins don't really have a plan. We've talked about this a million times. I don't think they have a plan. I don't know if they know exactly the type of players they're looking for to fit their system, or whatever their system is, the tough to play against thing. Like, what does that even mean? I don't think they know what it means. I don't think the prospects know what it means. I don't think guys coming up to try to get an NHL spot knows what it means. Yeah. Until that stuff is kind of figured out, I think, everybody's kind of looking around like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to hit? Am I supposed to, force turnovers? Am I supposed to score? Like, what am I doing here? And then they get 4 minutes, and then they get sent down again.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we've said it, and I still don't see it. And I think this management just has this philosophy where you just don't. They need something else, extra special from the youngsters, and that's just how it is. So, all right. Hey, let's get to the beauty this week. And how about Dalton Bancroft?
Gonna love you, eh? They're going to be loving you from dawn until dusk.
I have to apologize to Dalton. A few episodes ago, I called him somebody named Bancroft. And then he scores 2 goals in the preseason opener for him. His first NHL preseason game, 2 goals. And now he's going to have what looks to be his full season in the AHL with the Providence Bruins. He's a college free agent. Look, the history of college free agents isn't a great one. But he has shown some ability to shoot the puck and score.
Yeah, look, shooting the puck and scoring is always good. So if you can go down to Providence,
you need an elite skill, right?
If you can go down to Providence and having a good season, and score goals, maybe a guy like Frankfurt Toronto, had an elite skill. Wasn't the fastest guy, but could find the soft spots in the offensive zone and could shoot the puck. And if you shoot the puck and be able to get open, you should be able to carve out an NHL, career. So, hopefully the kid can do that. He's looked pretty good, and we'll see what kind of year he has in Providence, but maybe he's like a little bit of an under the radar type of guy, worth keeping an eye on and seeing how he does over the course of the season.
Yeah, he did have a good year. Michigan Mike with Cornell. Cornell had a good team. And Bancroft is just one of those guys. We'll see how he does in the AHL for a season. But again, you need a spot in the lineup. Yep. And who knows if that'll present itself or not as we go here.
Yeah. So Benders, we're not doing any Benders during the preseason because it's preseason after all. But Jeremy Swayman's first game didn't necessarily help himself. Endearing himself to fans. There was some boos, mishandles a puck in the first that ends up in his net. And then I believe it was the third goal they scored in the first game there. Guy just comes down the wing and beats him like, I think it was a low blocker, which we've talked about a bunch of times.
Low blocker is a hole.
Yeah, but Jesus Christ, make a save. You need to save that if you're an NFL goalie. So, and I get, first preseason game, shaking off the rust. Like, I get all that. I do. But he's got a lot of work to do to win back fans in the area. He had a bad year coming off a holdout where he said basically all the wrong things. And then he comes out this preseason and he's talking about himself in the third person. Again, doesn't endear himself to the fans around here. The fans around here want you to shut up and stop the fucking puck. Sorry, but that's what it boils down to. And he needs to do that stuff. And then once he's doing that and winning you games and stealing you games, then the fans will come back on your side a little bit. You have to continue to do that. You can't all of a sudden, when things start going your way, open your mouth and start yapping again and saying, like, just put your head down, stop the puck, and that's all we want. That's all we want. Put your head, be quiet, stop the puck. That's what we want. We want you to live up to the contract that you signed and, Mr. Maine Business School. Shush, put your head down and stop the puck.
I'll tell you what, he may never win some fans back unless he wins the cup.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Tuukka Rask, there's a contingent of Bruins fans who don't like the guy and think he's a fraud and everything else. It's the best goal he ever had.
100%.
And he has those problems.
100%.
So it may never happen for Swayman. And I think in a way he doesn't get it enough for it to happen. Like he just doesn't get it. He's his own aloof world.
Yeah.
He's spewing his spew. And then I'll tell you the other thing is that he comes out and says, I'm going to be better. I have to be better, blah, blah, blah. So he puts even added pressure. If he just doesn't talk and just shows with his play. So now he's healthy. He feels excellent and all these things he was saying. And he's going to be better. And, this is what's going to happen. Well, Jesus, now you put all sorts of pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
But he did play well today. So we'll give him that.
And I think one of the big problems with this team in general is that they all say the right things. After a game, after a loss, it hurts. We got to be better. I got to be better. The team has to be like, they say all the right things. But when it comes to actions, the actions don't match what they're talking about. Why do you then continuously still start slowly? Why always in game sevens do you seem uptight or overamped or whatever the thing is, and then you can't succeed? You say all the right things, but we need the actions to match up with what you're talking about. And for this team, for a number of years, that hasn't been the case. So I don't know what the answer is there, but they got to figure that thing out and stop talking about it and actually start doing it.
They do. And we're going to see it Wednesday night at the Washington Capitals for the season opener. And then right after it, next night, Thursday night, home against the Chicago Blackhawks. I have them winning both to start the season. I just have this feeling that they come out with a couple of wins. I don't think it's sustainable. I still don't have them winning, getting into the playoffs. But I do have them winning these first two games. So,
hey, optimistic spinning. I'll jump on board with that. Yeah, let's win. Let's win. Hell, let's win all the games. Let's win them all.
Yeah. Although when the Bruins do lose, we do better on the post games because everybody's flat out pissed off.
Everybody's pissed off. Michigan Mike doing a sip and old favorite Angel Envy tonight.
Envy tonight. Good for you, Michigan Mike. We're back at it. I'm gonna do some more sips this year.
Yeah, my sip tonight is water because we had plenty of beers during the day.
God, we had so much harpoon today. It was ungodly. But yes, join us Wednesday night, October the 8th, after the Bruins game for our first post game of the season. Glad to have everybody back on the comments tonight. And buy some merchandise.
Absolutely.
Use the code SorryJohn, 20% off. Get a rocks glass, get merchandise for the Bruins Benders Podcast. Use the QR code on your screen there. And we'll be back at it Wednesday with you all. Tell your friends, bring your sips, and the Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.